read the introduction, like a biography of Bhante Sambodhi. So, Venerable Sambodhi was born in the mid-60s in what was then known as Czechoslovakia and what is now the Czech Republic, one of the most irreligious countries in the world. Raised as an atheist with an initial strong bent toward hard science, he eventually ended up graduating in maths and physics. The subsequent postgraduate study of psychology, a soft science, led him to encounter Buddhist meditation for the first time in 1992. He then abandoned psychology and worked as a journalist, a translator, and a publishing house editor for 6 years while pursuing the Buddha's path of the Dhamma as a lay practitioner. In 1995, though, he went to Burma for the first time and for 10 months practiced Vipassana meditation in Mahasiego Meditation Center in Yangon, while being temporarily ordained as a monk. His subsequent ordination as a Bhikkhu took place in 2000 in a Pa'auk forest monastery in Lower Burma, where he underwent intense training in samatha meditation for 2 years. He then moved to Sri Lanka, where he spent on and off 12 years and was mostly associated with the forest tradition of Galduva. A few of those years were also spent in solitude, in simple solitary huts in the area called Lagala. Besides association with both Burmese and Sri Lankan traditions, he also spent considerable time in Western monasteries of Langpor Cha lineage, where he benefited tremendously from their teachings. Okay, so we are very happy, Bhante, that you are there with us, and I offer the voice to you.
Okay, thank you for the introduction. I hear myself and everybody who is speaking like twice. There is echo there. Do you also have that? No. So it's only me. I don't know. Yeah, I hear myself back.
I know why
like
this
what,
is.
What is it?
Because your microphone gets your you have like audio in on ears or from speakers.
So so you mean
because
it's
if you have
coming
earbuds, you're listening to headphones or speakers?
Well, I thought speakers should be turned off.
Yes, because
when the earphones are connected.
Yes, and now how it works? Because echo
No.
can be from the microphone. Because when speakers give voice, then the microphone catches it and there is an echo. But if you are on headphones, it shouldn't occur.
No, I think it should not be coming from speakers.
Okay.
If earphones are connected.
Yeah.
No, this should not be there.
Okay. So I don't know. Sorry.
Let's just a moment.
Manageable? Can you manage it? Or maybe you can turn down the volume so you won't hear it because we won't be talking now anyway.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Well, I can hear it a little little less, but I will try to manage. I think if I disconnected this, how can you hear me now? Is it okay?
Yes.
No, I hear it back
if you
from
have echo, just turn the volume of your audio output for 0. Then you won't hear any echo.
That's what. How is it now? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And try. I try. How is it now? No.
Good.
It's coming back from. I just try like this. Is it okay?
Yes, but you can just put microphone closer, but don't put headphones into your ears. But put your microphone here.
But I don't hear you at all. No, I just try to. Now say something.
Put your microphone near your mouth, but don't put earphones in your ears.
How is it now?
Yes, now. Yeah,
Can you hear?
Yes.
Hmm.
Just hold it somewhere near
Hmm.
here and
Technical problems here.
yeah. Okay, now it's all good.
I don't know. All right. If there is a problem, huh?
All good.
Now I cannot hear you. You know. Well, I try to manage the echo. It's weird.
No, it was good. It was good, Bante. Just start now.
Huh?
Like,
Okay.
you can just start.
So greetings from New Zealand. I have been on retreat here for 2.5 months now. It's dawn now. About already 20 minutes ago, civil dawn started. So program is first like group meditation. So I thought maybe like half an hour guided meditation. Okay, and then I can say a few words and then we can have discussion. I don't know why this echo is doing is here. I need to do some technical and testing of this app because this is for the first time on this phone, so I just don't know what is going on here. So, okay, I will give you a little guidance and you can follow what I say or you can do your own meditation. Those of you who participated in this guided meditation before with me, I have this little different approach. I don't give like do this, do that. I just describe what I am doing in meditation, and everybody else can do the same. You know, I just don't like giving orders. So, if you are ready, get ready for meditation. So I close my eyes and I try to become fully aware of how I feel inside this body. The general feeling, how it feels to be inside this very body. And then I slowly go through the whole body with the attention to see whether there is any unnecessary tension anywhere. And if there is, I try to relax it. So legs, feeling of relaxation, knees, thighs, arms, feeling of relaxation in all the muscles around the body. Position of the trunk, I check whether it is balanced. I check the muscles around the spine to see whether there is not unnecessary tension, just enough tension to keep the trunk upright. But generally, it should feel comfortable. And relaxation of the muscles in the face. And especially in shoulders. and going back to the general feeling inside the body, the central feeling. And now I briefly remind myself what this meditation is about: cultivation, meditation, cultivation of 5 faculties, mainly presence. It all starts with presence, sati, or mindfulness, and with the right kind of effort to grow this quality of presence. The effort to be present should be as relaxed as possible. And this presence is simply knowing where I am with attention. So I may choose something within the body to anchor my attention in the present moment. So it could be this central feeling in the center of experiencing, in the center of the body. It could be the starting point of maintaining presence. I am with this feeling, and at the same time, I know that I am there. So that's sati. And how do I make effort to maintain this quality of knowing where I am with attention? I'm just asking this question, but I'm not trying actively to find answer. I just allow the answer to come by itself. How do I maintain this presence, this knowing where I am, knowing that I am with this central feeling? Whatever comes, no matter what it is, whatever appears to the attention, it's no problem. I just need to know about it. So if thought arises, I just need to know, thought came. And I'm not engaged in that thought. Okay. Also, I can notice that this central feeling has something to do with the breathing. So I can also shift attention, and instead of focusing on feeling, I can take up the breathing process or experience of it as anchor in the present moment. So I'm just fully aware of in-breath and out-breath. And I am enjoying it. I am considering it as a time of rest. Resting the mind with the breath. In-breath, out-breath. Now, if I maintain this presence while being relaxed and while managing to remain detached, then that's all I need to do, and the rest is happening pretty much on its own. So all the rest of the faculties grow by themselves. It's like plants. I need to find out what I need to do, and the rest I have to just wait until everything else happens by itself. So with the right effort, this quality of presence grows, and with it also grows ability to still the attention and all the rest. In breath, out breath. I am allowing my mind to rest with the experience of breathing in and breathing out. when I am fully aware of in-breath and out-breath, and when I know that I am there, that's all. I don't need to do anything else. No other effort needed. Just relaxing, just fully knowing the breath and knowing that I am there, and that's it. Nothing else. I allow my mind to rest with the breath. It's like a holiday for the mind from thinking. Thinking is like busyness of the mind, while just resting with the breath is a kind of like a rest. It's useful to develop this kind of perception, seeing, watching the breath as something better than thinking or than the usual busyness of the mind. In breath, out breath. And when the time assigned for the sitting meditation is coming too close, I can gradually broaden the field of attention. So from the breath, I may broaden the attention to the whole body, just to see how I feel inside this body. Central feeling. And the whole body. I can check whether any extra unnecessary tension appeared anywhere in the body, especially in shoulders. And if it did, then I can still relax it. And once I can see that I am at home in this body, I can slowly open my eyes and continue being present while being engaged in external world. So is audio still okay? Yeah. Okay, the echo went away by itself, so now it's all right. So I guess it needed to be activated, So I thought of giving you some of you opportunity to suggest what I should talk about. I think it's better instead of me coming up with a theme, because I have my own themes, but I'm not sure whether they are relevant to you. So I don't know, Piotr, do you have is there possibility for people to ask?
Yes, absolutely. People can either say or write on chat. Maybe write on chat if someone wants some particular subject to be talked about. And what was your idea, Bante?
Well, one of the things I noticed when I was writing to you about this upcoming retreat, I used the word sampajanya, and I think you added sati before that, right? Sati sampajanya.
Yes, yes, yes.
So I realized, it's common to say sampajanya together with sati, like sati sampajanya, and it's usually translated into English as mindfulness and clear comprehension, but not long ago I realized that actually in Pali, in suttas, it's sampajanya and sati appear to be like synonyms, like the same, basically same word. So, for instance, in Satipatthana Sutta, one of the exercises within mindfulness of body is like mindfulness in daily activities. So the Pali says atikkanto patikkanto sampajanakari hote, sampajanakari sampajanya, and there is no sati mentioned there. It's sampajanya by itself. Also in Anapanasati Sutta, it starts with satova assasati, which means mindfully breathes in and breathes out. And then it continues, digangva asasanto digang asasamiti pajanate. Pajanate is same like sampajanya. So he, when he breathes his long breath, he knows I am breathing in long breath. So again, it's just sampajanya, it's not sati. So I think this sati sampajanya, that's I think from commentaries, and actually sampajanya as I think synonymous with sati, and it means full awareness, So in Satipatthana Sutta, when it says atikkanto patikkanto sampajanakari hoti, when he stretches or flexes his arm, he does so with full awareness, fully knowing, So this is exercise of mindfulness in daily activities. Whatever you are doing, you should be fully with it, fully aware of it. And that's practice of sati, mindfulness. Sampajanya, full awareness. Sam is like, there are two prefixes, sam and pa, and janya, janati is to know. So be fully and clearly aware of what you are doing. And that's exercise of sati or mindfulness or presence in daily activities. This is something which I was confused about for a long time because I started with the Mahasi method, and in Mahasi method, when you go for intense retreat, you are supposed to do everything very slowly and be aware separately of every movement, So I thought this kind of exercise is supposed to be also pursued outside of intense retreat, but that was wrong, because there are you always have to adjust the exercise of presence to the situation. So when you are outside of intense retreat, you cannot slow down everything, and you also the task is not to be aware of every single movement separately. You just keep doing whatever you are doing, and you need to be aware of what you are doing. It's very simple. But I was for a long time misled, thinking that I have to be aware of every movement separately, which is not the case. And recently I spoke to one Sinhalese group in United States, and the man asked me about this also. I could see that he was also misled in the same way. So there is some kind of different modes of practice of presence or sati, and we need to be very flexible in adjusting to how much detail we pay attention to. And in daily life, if we remember that we should be present, we just keep doing everything in normal way, but but we are just making sure that we know that we are doing what we are doing. Normally when we do something, we usually think about something else, or have some kind of conversation in the head. So when we are doing something, we are with that, and we can see that there is actually silence in the mind. That's the right kind of presence or sati. Is it clear? So that's what I was thinking, this sampajanya is actually synonymous with the sati. So to say it together like sati sampajanya, it's like saying the same thing twice, I think.
We can change that to only sampajanya, so it's...
Huh?
We can change that back to sampajanya only.
Yeah, exactly. That is why I wrote just sampajanya as a suggestion for this additional exercise for people before the retreat, to be simply fully aware of what they are doing. So, and the best thing is to be aware when you are doing something with the body, not something intellectual like writing or so. That's difficult. I would just let that be. But if you are doing like walking, opening doors, washing dishes, something like simple with hands or so, just to be aware of it, and I always forget to emphasize that if other people are around, you need to make sure that nobody notices something, because sometimes what might happen if you are trying to be mindful of what we are doing, you change the way you are doing it. You start looking a little weird from outside. So this should not happen, because otherwise it causes social problems. So you also, if you remember to be present and start making effort to be fully aware of what you are doing, at the same time, you must be aware of how you look from outside to others. You should not look different, which is kind of interesting exercise. You are talking to someone and you remember you should be mindful. So from that point, you start making effort to be aware that you are talking. So the other person should not recognize, that you changed. So there is some kind of lightness to this awareness or mindfulness. It should be performed with some kind of lightness, not too heavy. Not too heavy effort. And there are, of course, situations differ in how difficult it is to maintain mindfulness in them. So when we start, we are not too ambitious. Like, for instance, being mindful while talking or while listening to someone, that's most difficult circumstance. So not to be too ambitious in this situation, we start just with more simple circumstances, like when we are doing something with the body or so. Only now, after 20 years, I am a little more skillful in maintaining presence while talking, because it's a very complicated activity. Okay, any suggestion or question?
Well, you wanna go on with this topic? Then I can have like 2 questions. So as I understand, I can see 2 ways that how can it be applied in reality. One way is that you really need to learn doing something good, because when you do something automatically, like washing, the bowl or something, then it's so simple that you are just aware, because you don't need to think so much about what you're doing. That's why in the talking it's more complicated, because especially when you learn something new. When you learn something new, you have to be so focused on learning that it's hard to be like super mindful at the same time, I think. But I see the other way that can be done, because you can just be mindful, like from time to time, like few intervals, like few seconds, it's like this, you go to this meta awareness, okay, I'm there, and you just immediately go back. So which one do you think it works mostly? What is it based on mostly, or both together?
Now I did not get what you are asking about.
If this mindfulness is mostly coming like improving because you, for example, are so fluent in something that you just watch, like when you're doing it, it just happens on its own? Or is it like this pulses of from time to time that you are just, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this?
Yeah, that's also one thing I was confused about quite a lot, because it's always, we say continuous mindfulness, but it cannot be continuous, really. You know, it's always like moments, discrete. Because even awareness is not continuous, you know, it only appears like continuous, but it's a discrete moments. I say the consciousness or knowing is quantized, you know, it's quantums. Mind moments, that's quantum, how is plural? Quantum, I don't know, it's a Latin word. So even mindfulness actually cannot be continuous. It's always like knowing something and then knowing about that knowing in the subsequent moment. So it's quantized. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The reason why it's difficult, for instance, to be mindful while talking or while listening is because it's very complicated mental activity. Because, for instance, when you are listening to someone talking like now and understanding, so what the mind has to do is lots of things. You know, first of all, the mind has to listen and has to identify the sounds and has to separate them into words, you know. And when the mind hears the word, the mind has to recall what that word means, you know. And then it has to remember the whole sentence to make sense out of it, you know. So it's extremely complicated activity. And on the top of it, to maintain mindfulness, that's difficult. Same with talking, you know. Talking is also very difficult thing, because first the idea has to arise in the mind, and then this idea has to be translated into speech, and you have to maintain the attention with that idea until it all goes out, you know. So again, it's very complicated, and to maintain at the same time clear knowledge of it is not simple. So yeah, I can see during speaking like this, I can see when the mindfulness is there and when it is not. I can see that it is not continuous, but it cannot be continuous, because simply at any given moment there can be only one mental state, you know. So it can be either thought and then or mindfulness of it. So anyway, this is a little complicated. If you feel confused about this, just forget about it. Yeah, just naturally understanding of these things grows, and there are many different tricks which you need to discover for yourself also. Also, not only tricks, but also changes of attitudes, you know, like I am only discovering many things only now. Like the mind by itself basically starts playing with the changing of attitudes in meditation towards different things. You know, you just suddenly realize that you had this attitude, and you look at it and see, okay, and if I change attitude in this way, what is the result? You know, and you see that actually this new attitude is much better. It leads to much better results in meditation. But for a long time, many years, the mind had attitudes, certain attitude, and didn't know about it, you know. So yeah, it's a kind of interesting. This path, Buddha's path to liberation, is kind of interesting path of self-discovery. In the end of each is discovery that there is no self. You know, it's paradox. Path of self-discovery, which leads to the discovery that there is no self.
Okay, by the way,
So
Gosia asks a question about what you're talking about now. So because she asks, what a person who would like to become a strength enterer should understand.
Good question. Yeah, in the suttas, stream entry definition is not very clear, you know. And only arahatship definition or this description of arahatship is quite clear, much more details. But as for the stream entry, not much. So I keep thinking whether stream entry, for instance, whether it appears to everyone in the same way. Maybe different people experience stream entry in different way. I'm also not quite sure whether a stream enter is someone who enters stream entry, whether it is obvious to him or her, you know, whether it is possible, for instance, to become stream enter without knowing about it. I'm not sure. At any rate, as I understand stream entry, it's like, maybe I already mentioned it before, it's like a tipping point, you know. This stream, entering of the stream means that you cannot go back. You are carried forward from that point. So, for instance, it is obvious from how the Buddha speaks about development, cultivation of 5 faculties, that from the point of stream entry, the faculties, you know, these 5 faculties can only grow, you know. So what is traditionally believed in Sri Lanka among monks is that, for instance, if someone attains stream entry while being a monk or nun, then that person cannot disrobe, you know, because that would mean that he goes or she goes on the lower level of effort, which is not possible. It would be like going backwards. But from the point of stream entry, you can go only forward. So the effort can only grow from that point. So sometimes we hear about monks who thought they attained stream entry and then they go like one American or British maybe teacher, lay teacher. He was Ajahn Chah's disciple as a monk, you know, and I heard this from Ajahn Brahm actually. So he thought he became stream entered. So he went to Ajahn Chah and said that now that he's Arya Puggala, it's right time for him to disrobe because he wants to teach lay people, and as lay teacher he would teach lay people better. So he went and disrobed. So traditionally it's believed that this is not possible, and that means that this person overestimated. Also, many overestimations. You know, sometimes people think, okay, now I'm stream enter, so they forget about meditation and enjoy life. You know, so this is also not possible. You cannot go to lower level of effort. So, if someone becomes real stream enter while meditating, I don't know, 3 hours a day. So then he keeps doing it, you know, it's never less than 3 hours. It has to be 3 or more. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, thank you, Bante. There is one more question. Beata asks, how can I keep being present together with trying to fall asleep? When I tried it several times in the past, I didn't manage to fall asleep, or I woke up several hours later with terrible headache.
I see. Okay. Headache is no good. Maybe you are trying too hard. While we are not trying to remain mindful while we are sleeping, right? But it's what is possible, I would say, to be mindful of relaxation when you are like lying down and you want to sleep. So you just focus on the feeling of relaxation, and you just allow the mind to go to sleep, which means to forget mindfulness. If it is the case that the headache is a result, then the effort is probably too much. You are doing something wrong with the effort, so you need to find out what it is and how to make relaxed effort. For me, I normally sometimes people say this, that when they lay down and maintain mindfulness, that they don't fall asleep, and I think this is good actually. you are using time in a better way for meditation. But yeah, in most cases, I think it should not be a problem.
Okay, thank you. There's one more question. Jakob asks, these attitudes you were talking about that you should look at, are they asawas? And when we are at the topic of asawas and philosophical categories, how important to our practice is to know Abhidhamma categories?
Abhidhamma categories. I see. No, these attitudes, I didn't connect them with the Pali terms at all. I think what we have in suttas, all these teachings, these are like basic structures which are useful, but there is not everything is in the suttas. I think what was recorded in the suttas was only one level of teachings by the Buddha and other enlightened monks and nuns, and it's the level of teachings which is useful to anyone at any time. But besides that, there was also another level of teaching which Buddha and other monks and nuns were giving, and that was what I call timely and individual instruction. You cannot, if it's connected with the time, you have one teacher, one person, and you are giving him exactly that instruction which he or she needs at that time, and only this person. So this kind of teaching cannot be it could be recorded, but it would not work. So what we have in suttas is just one this kind of most general level, but many I believe many teachings were not simply recorded. Only what we have recorded is that this was actually happening. The Piotr, this which I told you about Anapanasati Sutta, this narrative introduction to this sutta, it simply describes that monks were teaching other monks, but what they were teaching is not spelled out. So this is kind of teaching which we know that it was happening, but what they were teaching is not said. So this is what I'm talking about. It was like timely individual instruction. So I think this like subtle things like attitudes, changing attitudes, I think this falls into this more subtle level of instruction. So I don't think it's what is meant by asavas. Asavas. Also, there is discussion about how to translate this term. I personally like influences. It's basically almost literally exactly what asava means. Asava's influence, distraction, and the other part of question was Abhidhamma, right? So I have heard only something about Abhidhamma. I don't think it is necessary, and it might be even misleading. But longer I meditate, more what I see looks like Abhidhamma. So I think maybe at least part, or maybe all of it is, I think, quite correct. But so far, just reading it and studying it, it was not helpful to me. I think it's much better to stick to more simple and general teachings in the suttas. And when you keep meditating, you gradually actually start seeing what Abhidhamma is talking about. but I am not sure whether it's actually a good idea to know about it beforehand. Many things I read, even in Mahasiego Sayadawa, the Progress of Insight. It's kind of booklet where it describes all the 16 stages of vipassana and so on. It was terribly misleading to me to know about it beforehand, because you create some kind of image, what it says in your mind, and then you tried to bring those things as you imagine it, and it's something completely different. So it's kind of I think, I don't know how it could be useful to know about all these details beforehand.
All right, thank you. So I wonder if there is some more.
I saw
do
this.
You have your favorite meditation?
Yeah, these questions sometimes appear on the screen here also. So it's kind of okay. Well, I did many different meditations during my life as a monk, and I also went through some crises. Some of them were on the verge of death. And in the last 6-7 years, I had to basically completely change and more or less forget what I had been doing before. And my favorite meditation now is presence. you can get so much from just presence, that it's quite unbelievable. I had to basically forget everything what I learned in Mahasi and all of that. I'm not saying that what Mahasi teaches is all wrong, or Paug Sayadaw or any other teacher. Maybe I just misunderstood it or something. I don't know. But yeah, so I recommend to everybody, basically, if you listen to too many talks about, jhanas and blisses and so on, it can be also misleading, because I actually talked about it, about this to Ajahn Brahm, and he admitted, that yeah, it's the case, but he thinks he has to fight for the revival of jhana practice, and that is why he keeps talking about it so much. But I think people need to know that there is such a thing as jhana, and that it's samadhi, but that's about it, I think also the reason why, for instance, nothing much is said about it in suttas, like nimittas and all of that, is also because if people know too much about it beforehand, before they are close to experiencing it, it can serve as hindrance. So yes, you need to know what is said in the suttas, jhana, samadhi, and so on. But then when you actually are practicing, what you need to emphasize is what Ajahn Brahm describes as first stage, which is present moment awareness. It's kind of unfortunate that when people are hearing about these other more advanced stages, they of course naturally crave for them, have desire to get there quickly, and then they skip too early over this first stage, present moment awareness. But if you establish this foundation well, then all the other stages come out of it kind of naturally, and even the presence itself can be actually quite enjoyable. If you are present, you are more alive, and some kind of joy comes from within it, and once you find this joy in presence, then it meditation progresses by itself, and you just don't need to do anything. So really try to enjoy presence. Don't hurry to get those blisses.
Okay, thank you. There's one more question from Gosha. how you, Bhante, would describe right effort in meditation?
Yeah, that's a big thing, right effort. I think there is no simple answer, and I say, first of all, this question of right effort is never settled completely. You know, you at one situation you may think you find the right kind of effort, and it may be right in that situation, but few moments later it may be completely different. You know, so the question of right effort is never sorted out once and for all. You know, so I think it's also a process of natural growth of faculties, you know, like understanding, discernment. You know, you start with some kind of basic discernment, so you don't know what the right effort is. You make effort which is not always the right. Sometimes you make too much effort, sometimes not enough, and maybe the wrong kind. But if you keep doing and making mistakes and learning from them, then discernment naturally grows, and understanding, and more you start seeing more and more what the right effort might be. And teachers can tell you only, can give you explanation only to some level, but you also need to discover for yourself what the right effort is. And I have been trying to sort this out for many years, and I'm still not finished with it. And only recently I decided that the most of the effort should be directed towards just remembering to be present. So remembering, right? Sati, the Pali word, means memory. I think nowadays teachers don't give enough attention to this fact that sati is actually memory. You know, so they sometimes take just this English translation, mindfulness, for granted, and they don't think about why Buddha chose this word memory. You know, so what does sati have to do with memory? And for me, after a long time, I decided that actually it is memory. Also, when we talk about it as presence, it's still memory. You know, you just need to remember present moment. And also because there is always only one mind. As Ajahn Brahm put it actually in one of his brief articles, he said, we cannot know that we know, we can only know that we knew. You know, this is sati. Because at one moment you are aware of something, and in the following moment you become aware of that awareness. So it's also remembering. So sati in the most microscopic level is basically remembering the previous awareness. Right? So it's also memory. Even in the case of present moment awareness, it's also memory, but just remembering one moment back. You know. And I think it's okay to call it presence because these two moments are in touch with each other. So it's still presence, even though it's remembering just moment that just passed, but it's still close enough to be called presence. And effort, just what kind of effort it is to keep in mind to be present. You know, effort to keep in mind to be present. It's kind of very, very subtle effort, right? Before, when I didn't know this, I know that I was making some kind of effort which created some kind of tension here, you know. So this, if you notice anytime during when you are making effort, if you notice any tension anywhere in the body, try to relax it. You know, that's probably that that the effort is not exactly skillful or the right one. The effort should never lead to either physical tension, like tensing up shoulders or muscles, that's a clear sign that you are not relaxed enough. And then if there is also some kind of discomfort as a result of this effort somewhere within the body, which may not be muscle, then I would look into it, whether it's possible to make effort without this.
Okay, thank you, Bante. Now I will have a question, a little bit different subject, because it was happening in our community on many levels with many people, at least as far as I know. Because there is this situation in talking with people about right speech, that sometimes, there is some situation we should talk about, but let's say the topic is not easy one. So sometimes some people just hide it, then don't say anything, don't say that they don't want to confront because maybe they think it's not delicate. So what is the balance between stating your truth and being delicate and because I think it's rarely spoken about, but should people because people think, yeah, I should just let go, so they don't speak about things that bother them for a long time. So about this letting go and just just cleansing yourself through speaking what is on your mind really and stuff like that. So something about it.
Yeah, this is a very important theme and problem also, which cannot be definitively answered. I have same problem also, or probably everybody has. You know that according to the Buddha, right speech is first of all it has to be truthful, right? But it also has to be beneficial. Saying truth which is not beneficial, that's what Tathagata doesn't do. But Buddha always, because of his omniscience or whatever, he always knows, can discern when the saying the truth is beneficial and when it is not. But for us, it's very difficult to know that beforehand, right? Sometimes you say truth, but you after some time you discover that it didn't lead to right outcome, so it wasn't beneficial to say truth at that situation. So what can we do about it? I always try to when I know that something which I think is truth but not welcome, by the other side, I'm trying to sort of see whether there is any chance for it to be beneficial, or whether it's more likely that it would lead to some unbeneficial result, and if some people have this tendency to never say things which they think are unpleasant to other side, right? So they I suspect Ajahn Brahm is like that, because he's known for not being able to say no to anyone, because he doesn't want to to offend anyone. I don't know. I'm not like that. I actually, yeah. Many times it happened to me that I said something and I upsetted people and they stopped talking to me. And I don't mind, I just, but I always try to guess or ascertain whether what I am about to say, whether it could possibly lead to good result or not, And if I feel like the other side is not ready or would not accept or I think I don't say it, but if I think it could help, even if it's unpleasant to the other side, I usually say it, and sometimes it doesn't work. So what can you do? I'm not Buddha, and if I'm not even fully enlightened, so I cannot know, So I'm not sure, there is no definitive criteria how to decide, whether you should say the truth which is unpleasant or not. just guessing, you know. So there is this kind of thing about which we discuss about this use of Buddhism, Buddhism, difficult idea. The Gosia here asked me whether I would participate in this meeting with these other Buddhist groups, but with the unfortunate invention of this word Buddhism by British, 250 years ago, now this word is so well established that everybody confuses Buddha's teaching with Buddhism, But Buddha predicted that Sadhama, true Dhamma, would last only 500 years. What happened after 500 years? Mahayana came, and all these teachings, which many of them are completely contradicting what the Buddha was teaching before. And now it is all called Buddhism, and people are not aware, even in Theravada countries, and even some well-known scholar monks who have written lots of books about Buddhism, they still confuse Buddha's teaching, Sadhama or Dhamma, with Buddhism. Right? But Buddha didn't teach Buddhism. So, and this is controversial, right? So you cannot say this to Tibetans. Tibetan Buddhism should not be called Buddhism. It's like Lamaism, right? It's Tibetan culture. It's okay. It's okay to be interested in Tibetan culture. You can learn from Tibetan shamanism and occultism and all of that. But I feel like if I participate in these meetings, I would be saying that I actually agree with what they are teaching, which I don't. But this is controversial, right? You have to be very careful what you say about it. So yeah, so I as I wrote to Piotr, I think also this term early Buddhism is extremely unfortunate because it basically legitimizes this term Buddhism. There was no such thing as early Buddhism. Buddhism only came about 250 years ago. That means 23 centuries after the Buddha. So there is no such thing as early Buddhism. And if you picture in your mind all these centuries, why all these communities and schools didn't need this general term, they didn't need it, Why do we need it? Actually, I suspect they actually like to be different, to differentiate themselves. Even Mahayana, which I myself call Marayana, wanted to be seen as something different, So that is why all these different schools, Vajrayana and I don't know, Chan and all of that, they were giving themselves different names because they want to differentiate themselves from others. They of course, idea was that they are better, But only when British came to India and other colonies, and they needed to simplify it, they didn't want to differentiate between different schools, so they put all this huge umbrella term onto everything. And I suspect that, for instance, Tibetan culture and religion was called Buddhism because it was not in India. Also, Hinduism is a British invention. Basically, everything which was in India was called Hinduism, even though it was many, many different religions. And because Tibetan culture and religion was not in India, they eventually put it under this umbrella of Buddhism, but it could have been called Hinduism as well, because they accepted so much from Hinduism, all these deities and wrathful deities and all of that. That's more like Hinduism, but because it's not in India, it was put under umbrella of Buddhism. Yeah. So yeah, I went. This is a slightly digression, but it's a little bit about this right speech and to say truth, but in such a way that it's beneficial actually. So I think it's unfortunate because many people should have choice to decide whether they want to practice Tibetan culture, which is okay if they do it knowingly, you know, if they decide that they are interested in Tibet and Tibetan culture and they want to learn from it, it's okay. But if they do it under the wrong impression that it leads to liberation, if they won't practice for liberation, then Tibetan teachings will not lead them there.
All right, Gosha has follow-up questions. So what is the real Buddhism?
Real Buddhism. I suggest not to forget about Buddhism completely, you know. Just decide, do you want to practice Dhamma, which means original Buddha's teachings? Buddha called it Dhamma. And when he said that, he used the word sadhamma, you know, sa is prefix. Again, it's like emphasizing, and it means something like true Dhamma or authentic Dhamma, you know, the real Buddha's teachings. So Buddha was teaching the truth when he was alive. It was codified in those suttas which were being recited. You know, first they were maintained only in the memories of monks. So for first, I don't know, 300 years or so, it was only in heads. It was not written on a paper. So it was completely different situation. And the task was simply to keep it in the memory unchanged, you know. So monks, it was mostly monks, you know. Sorry, there is no gender equality in original, you know, in this. Yeah, anyway, it doesn't matter. So monastics were meeting regularly and were chanting suttas together. So in this way, they were like maintaining it unchanged. Only when it was written down on the paper, from that point, it was possible basically to start building on the top of it something else, you know. So I think also this first writing down of Buddha's teachings on the paper or on palm leaves, that was the beginning basically of these new developments, which eventually crystallized in what we now call Mahayana, which happened 500 years, about 500 years as Buddha predicted it. Then various ideas from the Dhamma were moving through countries, through different cultures. They were blending with the local religions and so on. And eventually Tibetan Buddhism came about, and Zen and Chan in China and so on. In China, for instance, there was already Confucianism there, you know. So the Chinese monks who brought some parts of the teachings from India or somewhere to China, they felt they had to adjust it to this local culture and local ideas. So they changed something, you know. So in Chan, for instance, monks were supposed to grow their own food, you know, which is completely opposite what original monks, Buddha's monks, did. So there was the Chan rule, which says that day without work is day without food. You know, you have to work as a monk, grow your own food if you want to eat. So it's very similar to what we had in communism. I don't know whether in Poland it was also like that. Who doesn't work, let him not eat. So that was coming from Confucianism in China, you know, because they already had this social responsibility and all of that. So it was moving. Some of the ideas which the Buddha was teaching were adopted, but they were altered. And then British came and have all these different cultures which were to some extent influenced by Buddha's teachings, but not much. They were all thrown into one box of Buddhism. And after two more 100 years, now it is the clear awareness, sampajanya, of this fact that Buddha didn't teach Buddhism is so diminished and basically gone that even some very well-known scholar monks say that Buddha said that Buddhism would last 500 years and we still have Buddhism, so he was wrong. Complete nonsense. Buddha never used the word Buddhism. Yeah, you know, this scholar cannot differentiate between Sadhama, real Buddha's teachings, and Buddhism. So what is it? How is it possible? So this is one of the yeah. Okay, ask.
Yeah, you can go on, or we can get next questions because we stay till 2 hours normally, like till. To what time do you want to stay, like with us? How many questions we can take?
It also depends on how much data is left, you know. So as long as I have data, we can go on because I need to go. Well, it's almost 9:30. I should go for Pindapat. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, it's morning. It's morning here. In New Zealand, autumn started. You know, fall. You have spring, right? Here it's autumn, so sometimes it's quite cold. Fortunately, today it's not too cold. But anyway, every morning I need to go to the town to collect alms food.
Okay.
But it's still time. About half an hour, I still have time.
Okay, there is next question. Kamil asks, maybe a few words about restraint of the senses.
Restraint of the senses. I think where we most sin, you know, where we do most wrongdoing is in looking. So even if you start a little bit being more aware of how you use your eyes, where you look, is a good step. I don't think there is much problem with hearing or smelling for most of us, or maybe tasting when you eat, but mostly I think where we do most of the harm, I would say, or unskillful karma is by looking. So of course for me it was at the beginning what I did when I came to monastery, for instance. From the first day, I determined I would not look at a woman or girl directly. And I kept it for 6 months. So for 6 months, I didn't look at a woman. You know. It was not very difficult because in this monastery in Pauk in Burma, I was most of the time alone in a kuti. So I had to be careful only about 20 minutes around food time, you know, breakfast and lunch. That was only like 20, 30 minutes where I had chance to, if I wanted to look at a woman, but I didn't. I also only later I learned that Ajahn Chah made a similar determination. Like he did it for 3 months. I did it for 6 months. After 6 months, I tried to look at. By the way, Burmese nuns, which were giving food to monks, became angry at me because I didn't interact with them. You know, so I got some reaction from them. And as a monastic, I have to be careful about where I am looking. So for monastics, even when we are walking, we are supposed to look downwards, and we are looking around only when we need to decide, you know, where to go and so on. So, but anyway, for lay people, I think it could be interesting exercise. Simply at first to be aware when you intend to look somewhere, to be aware of it before you look there. You know, that's not easy. So this is kind of first step in this exercise of sense restraint, to try to be aware intention to look somewhere and to give a thought to it whether it's a good idea to look there or not. and sometimes to say no, not to look there. You know what visual objects are like associated with desire, so sometimes to say no and not to look to some pleasurable object, it's kind of I think useful exercise, and to see how it affects you. As for the food, like taste, pleasant tastes, I agree with Ajahn Brahm, who says that for the food to be digested well, it should be tasty. It should not be like what they sometimes like mix all the food they get like into one big mash in the alms bowls. Maybe that's not a good idea. In the rule for monks is to start eating from one side of the alms bowl and continue systematically. So you don't just pick what you like, So this is a sensory restraint practiced in relation with the food. Yeah. So I would start with the eyes, with looking. As for the sense restraint, just to become aware when you intend to look somewhere, and to see whether sometimes you can say no and not to look there.
Okay, I can have a follow-up question for that, because can we practice sense restraint as lay people? Like, for example, you give certain instructions to your sati. For example, okay, you can look at this, but you cannot look at that. You can listen to this, but don't listen to that. So, for example, you allow yourself to, let's say, listen to some nice music, but you don't listen to some extreme dark music or something like that. Like, you allowed yourself to, so let's say you don't allow yourself to do akusala things, but when it's not so bad, but sensual, then it's okay for some time, So like gradual process of letting go of the most unskillful objects of desire.
Yeah, I think so. I not completely sure, because I was active in music before. I played classical guitar and so on, and I kept listening music all the way up to ordination. So I think it's not very highly akusala to listen to music, even Pink Floyd or something like that. When I was in Burma, it was terrible. In Burma, or generally in Asia, you hear people broadcast music all around. They have loudspeakers and they play it that everybody can hear it. And in Pauk, I once was a really backward place in like jungle, and there were only villages down the hill, like without electricity, usually just bamboo cottages and so on. But one night I heard Pink Floyd. And that was terrible. I was not able not to listen to it. And then it was echoing in my mind for several days. It was really horrible. So I would not be too strict as a layperson, like regarding music, for instance. Of course, indulging, for instance, in food, it's better to choose. It can be tasty, but it should be healthy, So like not too many sweets and so on. You can choose healthy, tasty vegetarian food is good, And I wouldn't be too overly strict regarding this. I never was into smell, so I don't know how people indulge in smelling. And touches, yeah. Well, for lay people, it's recommended, to cultivate contentment with one's partner, right? Not to be promiscuous, but I think faithfulness to one's partner is okay. That's kind of sense restraint for layperson.
Yeah, so it's like
So,
you're practicing sense restraint, that you don't look at other people than your partner, you don't think about them, and this is like you're brahmachari
yeah,
for everyone except your partner.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think this
It's
is still
like
a lot for. I know many people for whom this would be very hard, but I think it is a very worthwhile practice because it actually lets go of a lot of this defilement.
mhm, yeah, like sexual intercourse is not kusala, but if it's just with one partner, it's not as akusala as it would not lead to rebirth in lower realms. If it's just with one's partner, then it's acceptable level.
Yeah. So, do you think that we find some teachings of the Buddha that say that when people are promiscuous or have multiple partners, that they are reborn in lower realms?
Well, it's not 100%, but eventually, it doesn't have to be in the subsequent rebirth. It's very, karma works in very complicated ways. So the only, these 5 karmas which definitely lead to lower rebirth, that's very limited. But there are some descriptions of of how people were promiscuous and where they were reborn. It's nothing that one would desire.
Yeah, sorry for like drilling you about this, but one more question because it's so rarely spoken about. Like, what is the philosophical principle there? It's like not my thing, but I know some people modern times say like there's this polyamorous relationships when they all agree
Uh-huh.
that they are like in multiple relationships. So it would be still more akusala than from Buddhist perspective than being faithful to our partner, or when it's all
Of
all
course.
agreed and
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, yeah, not non-harming, right? That's first rule, not to engage in sexual relations that are harmful. So if it is all consensual, you might say this is okay. But anyway, as I said, even a sexual relationship with just one partner is not exactly kusala, right? But it's not so akusala that it would lead to really bad rebirth. So I think the restraint just to one partner is a good idea. If you read in Digha Nikaya how progress or development of society is supposed to go, it is supposed to basically the morals are supposed to so deteriorate that basically there will be no rules regarding in this area. So it is, I think, described that eventually even son will have sex with his mother and so on, things like this. So I think what I would say what we see at these times, it looks a little bit like that. Basically all the limits are being basically pushed aside and basically anything is possible. So I wouldn't go in that direction.
Sadhu Bhante, thank you for saying that. I agree 100% with you. But it's nice the monk said that, so thank you. Anyway, we have next question. What leads to liberation? So it's very general question, but I know that this comes from a person who is like new to our like to Buddhism a little bit, so probably curious. So Diana asks.
Depends on what you mean by liberation, right? This is a kind of general word, but I can only say what Buddha meant, what is meant by liberation in the Dhamma. It's liberation for all forms of greed, hatred, and delusion. And that leads to liberation from being reborn. Liberation of the unshakable liberation of the heart, from all forms of greed, hatred, and delusion. So what leads what the Buddha was teaching, the Eightfold Path. And it has these three pillars: dana, sila, bhavana. Dana, both dana and sila are really important. Sometimes people in the West tend to underestimate them, but I believe that, for instance, if people find it difficult, for instance, to go as far as to ordain as monks and nuns, that means that they didn't practice dana, especially dana, enough in previous lives or in the past. Because what we do when we become monks or nuns is we give up everything. We give away all the possessions. We give away our amazing jobs. I used to have very lucrative job which I highly enjoyed, and I had to give it up. And I also had to part with my soulmate girlfriend. So that was difficult, but I was able to do it, and I believe it was because I practiced dana probably more than is usual. Because what I saw also when I was layman, I started giving much more than what I saw around myself with my Buddhist friends. I was basically the only one whom I know about who actually took dana seriously, and I was when I was going to meditation center, I started giving like coins, but only maybe 3 times, and after that I realized, wait a moment, it's too easy. I should give something which is difficult to give. So I started giving bigger and bigger banknotes, and in the end I was giving few thousand a year. Nobody else among Buddhist friends. And I think this is because I probably practiced dana before, and that is why I was able to go over this terrible barrier of giving away everything. Now, you might think, okay, but maybe it's not necessary to become a monk or nun, right? Maybe it's possible to attain liberation without it. Well, it's not completely impossible, but it's not as easy. Because when we become monks or nuns, we become meditation professionals, right? We have all the time available for practice, and we don't need to burden our mind with these thoughts, how to make one's living, right? It's terrible. You don't realize it when you are in the midst of it, but I realized it after some years as a monk, how liberating, how happy it feels not to have anything to do with money. You don't know, before you try it, you don't know this background of happiness which comes from it after some years of not handling money. So I try to emphasize that actually practice of dana is really important. You never know when you practice it, then it bears fruits. Of course, sila is also important, and then you have bhavana. That's third pillar, cultivation of 5 faculties. So saddha, virya, sati, samadhi, panya. Do you all know these terms? Saddha, virya, sati, samadhi, panya. I also recommend, it's really good to familiarize oneself with these terms, because it's much better to use original terms than translations, because translations are never accurate. Saddha, virya, sati, samadhi, panya. 5 faculties. That's what we are cultivating in this process of bhavana, cultivation, meditation. So all these 3 things lead to eventual liberation. How quickly, that depends on how much we have practiced them in the past. It was also one of the things I also quite often talk about. I didn't realize that this is actually like a process of cultivation. Is like process of learning, playing musical instrument or playing tennis. You cannot expect it to learn it quickly if you haven't practiced it for a long time before. So it's always, you start from where you are, and from there you need to start and keep doing it. If you don't, then you don't progress.
Okay, thank you. So all questions are up. So maybe you wanna show your office and your place, Bante? Because you are showing me this was funny, so I can.
So what is the question?
No, I was thinking that maybe you could show the surroundings with the phone where you live.
Aha, I see. Okay. I think this, yeah, this is my tent. That is where I was for 2 months, 2.5 months. I will show you my Chankamana walking meditation path. This bird is always watching me here. Can you see?
Yes.
This is my Chankamana here, walking meditation.
Yeah.
And now this is a very beautiful river. I think it's kind of worshipped by Maori people. Can you see the river down there?
Yes.
That's Waikato River, which it is flowing out of a huge lake, which is like of volcanic origin. Yeah, I put this shelter. Normally, I don't have this here, but it was raining, so sometimes I put it up and I can sit underneath here.
And your office
In
is
front
out
of my
there?
office is here. That's where I.
Yeah. That's monkish.
Huh?
Yeah, that's like a true monk. Very,
Yeah,
minimalistic.
that's right. Yeah, it's very nice. That's what you get chance to do as a monk, you know. But not every monk is into it, you know. Most of the monks in Theravada countries, they are temple monks, so they are doing also a good job for Dhamma, but they don't practice like this. Just forest monks. And this is
Okay.
actually the only. I believe this is the only place in New Zealand where I can do this. You know, normally I traveled, wandered around New Zealand, and usually when you stay in one place, you go for arms round, and it's okay first 2-3 days, and then it becomes more and more difficult to get enough food. Here, this is the only place where it remains same. You know, I get always every day. I get enough food within like 1 hour maybe from strangers. It's also because it is the only place where they have 7 Thai restaurants in one town. So I get three times a week. I got lunch in Thai restaurant, and one time a week from Cambodian bakery. So it was already 4 days a week, like sure food. And the rest on Sundays, I was waiting in front of large supermarket, which is called Pack and Save, and there sometimes I get so much food that I have to give it away, like supply for the whole week. And we cannot store up food, you know. So if I get too much food, I have to find someone to give it to, you know. And homeless people are not always available, so I actually found a bakery where I can give them food, give it to them, and when they see a homeless person passing, they give it to him or her.
Okay, so thank you. Like, I think we ran out of questions, and Yeah, but it was very nice. Thank you so much for your explanations.
Which there was one more question about Tibetan
It
tradition.
was more like okay, I will read it. It was said that Tibetan teachings don't lead to liberation, and as far as I understood, Buddha's teachings and the practice Dhamma also don't lead to liberation. Thus, I ask, what leads to liberation?
Which teachings don't lead to liberation also?
Well, Buddha's teachings, but yeah, this is, not what you said.
No, what I mean is all these ideas, for instance, the original idea which came about 500 years after the Buddha was that it was selfish to make effort for one's own liberation, and instead someone would we should like help others, and all this idea of bodhisattva's path, So this, in my understanding, this is like trap of Mara. Mara. If you make vow that you will not leave samsara until all beings are liberated, so then you will never leave samsara. So this is what Mara likes to hear. If you go back to Buddha's teachings, Buddha said before, if a person is sinking in mud, such a person cannot help someone else who is also sinking in the mud. First you have to get out of the mud yourself, and only then you can help others to get out of the mud. Similarly, if person is not enlightened, that person cannot help to become enlightened to others. First you have to discover the liberation, and first you have to liberate yourself, and only then you can help others. And once you are on the path, once you are a stream enterer, you cannot stay in the samsara. You cannot decide to remain in the samsara until all beings are liberated. So this is like slight distortion, slight change of the idea, which makes it ineffective. The teaching of the Dhamma is at its best state when the Buddha is around. That's the peak. That's the best you can ever have. And once Buddha passes away and is gone, cannot be said to exist anywhere. From that point, it can go only down. So the monks or monastics at the beginning make a great effort to maintain the teaching in its original state, but this cannot last forever. So eventually new different ideas find their way into the body of teachings, and it becomes it starts declining. So of course, if Mara tries to eventually Mara discovers that he has to present his teachings as Dhamma, So all these ideas which came later can never be improvement, It can never be improvement. But of course, it will be presented as something better, right? So all these ideas that it's complete nonsense. I don't know how people can accept it when they say that what Buddha originally was teaching to all these great arahats like Sariputta and Mahamoggallana, that was lowest level, because they were too stupid to understand great bodhisattva ideal. And only 500 years later, when Mahayanists came, that was the right time to teach higher level. It's complete nonsense, right? Like first chief disciple Sariputta was not ready, mature to understand bodhisattva ideal. It's nonsense, right? So yeah, anyway. So as I said, the best is to see Tibetan teachings as Tibetan culture. It's culture, it's local religion. Same with Japanese, Chan, and so on. It's nothing wrong with that. Every culture, every country has its own culture and its own religion. but it cannot be that anything which comes later is better than what was taught by the Buddha himself. You know, what the Buddha was teaching, that was the highest level, and from there it can go only down. So gradually liberating potential of teachings is weakened, and eventually the liberating potential is all gone. That's natural progress of things.
Yes, but what I think, what she might not be aware is that Theravada tradition has maintained a lot of early teachings, and in general, maybe other traditions, some of them as well. And the early teachings are still valid, mostly. So there is teachings that lead to liberation, and that is what Bhante calls Dhamma, which is just the teaching of the Buddha.
Exactly. Suttas in Pali canon, you know, suttas is the best what we have at our disposal, and what the Analayo was doing last 20 years, you know, comparing these suttas in Pali canon with the Chinese translations. It looks like what we have is with great reliability what monks had only 100 years after the Buddha. And since we can see that after that these teachings were not changed much, we may be quite confident that during the first 100 years those teachings were preserved really well, you know, by monks. So I think we can rely quite well on these teachings in the suttas. And also, I believe that still some enlightened disciples of the Buddha, you know, who became only stream enterers at his time, they can still be reborn here, you know. So I think, for instance, some of these monks in Thailand who are reputed to be arahats and so on, I believe that some of them might be reborn stream enterers from the Buddha's time. This is still possible because, as it works. So still some hope is, but unfortunately, because of all this confusion with Buddhism and so on, it's a kind of not easy to find the right way.
All right. Thank you, Bhante.
Okay.
So yeah, I think we can conclude here.
Okay, so see you in 2 months or something.
Yeah. So now I want to announce, because we will make a post about it like tomorrow probably, because we're still wrapping everything out, but wrapping everything together. But I just want to announce that Bhante Sambodhi will come to Poland on 13 May and will stay until 14th of July. And he will also lead a 7-day retreat at Wtedy from 20 to 27 May. And he will be able to register for that. All information will be online probably tomorrow on all our channels like Sasana, Theravada, and stuff like that. And also there will be teachings like twice a month, twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays at 6:45 p.m. Also in Wtedy. And Wtedy is like 1 hour from Warsaw, and the train goes there. So yeah, this is the basic information, but you will find everything on the internet like tomorrow probably. So just check our channels and all the information will be there. Okay, so thanks everyone, and have a good night or evening, and Bhante, have a good day.
Okay.
Thank you, Bhante, so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.